Yo guys, what's going on? It's your neighborhood friendly Zion here, or Z, and welcome back to another video. It's been a bit too long, a little over 5 years now, and I appreciate anyone that's returning to the channel. If you are new, welcome. I do stories, and I'm going to be doing some gaming content coming up in the future, but this is going to be about the first time that I ever did something absolutely insane behind my dad's back. I snuck off to Vegas right before finals. This was my first year in college, and I had finals coming up, but I was not preparing as I should have. Decided to go to Vegas and basically go to this rave behind my dad's back. And it just turned out really, really horribly for me. So, with that being said, let's dive into it. So, this was 2019. And in 2019, I was really obsessed with going to these music festivals. I don't know if you guys remember the video I did in Ibiza. If any of you OGs are here, I went to Ibiza to go see Martin Garrix. This was for my first ever concert and music festival that I've been to. He was my favorite artist, and I had gone there when I was 18. So this is the year after that. I had already seen him for the first time, and I wanted to see him again. I was really looking forward to the next time I got to see his concert. It was a great time in Ibiza. It was an absolute movie, and it was time that I wanted to go to a bigger festival this time because Ibiza was a bit small and it was a bit more intimate, but I wanted to go to a large scale festival. And every year in Vegas, there's this festival called EDC. Basically, all the biggest music artists in the world go to EDC in Las Vegas and they play a show. It's 3 day festival, really, really crazy. It starts at like 7 p.m. and it ends all the way at 6 in the morning. So you really, really have to be on some sort of stimulants to keep you up. So I don't really know, to be honest, how anyone goes for 3 days straight. I did it last year and it was just very, very tiring. I was there with my girlfriend, and that's a whole different story because something crazy happened before we even got to the festival with her, and it made it 100 times harder to basically do everything. So I'll tell that in probably the next video or a video coming up. But going back to 2019, I had finals coming up in May, and this festival is every year in May. So one of my homies, he had messaged me and he was like, "Hey, I have this ticket for EDC, but I'm not going to be going." And I was like, "Why aren't you going? Are you crazy?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting a lot closer to my religion and I don't want to be around anything like that." So that's something that I want to distance myself from. And I was like, "All right, bro, like if you're not trying to go, like if you have a ticket, like how much do you want for it?" And he's like, "Nah, you can have it for free. Like I know how much you've been wanting to go to this festival, and Martin Garrix is going to be playing on Saturday, so you can have it." And so I'm stoked. I'm like, "Bro, I just got a $500 ticket to one of the biggest music festivals in the world. This is going to be insane." But now I had a different problem. How was I going to get there? How was I going to be allowed to go? And this was the weekend right before finals. There's no way my dad was going to okay this. I don't think you guys understand. My dad was very, very strict about my grades, and anything that would hinder that, he wasn't for, which is understandable. And despite knowing that, I still had the audacity to bring this up to my dad. And I said, "Hey, Baba, listen, there's this festival. My friend gave me a free ticket. It's a huge opportunity. I really want to go. I know I have finals, but I swear I'll be back. I just want to go for that one day. I'll make sure I study beforehand." And he said, no. What else did I think he was going to say? To be honest, I have no clue. I don't know what I was thinking by asking him. This is kind of where I messed up by even alerting him that this was going to happen. And this happened a few weeks before the festival. So I thought, okay, maybe he'll forget about it, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm upset. I'm like, okay, he doesn't want me to go. This is an opportunity that at the time, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm not going to get this opportunity again. Like as if the festival wasn't going to happen the next year. I was impatient. I knew I had a free ticket and I really wanted to go, but I didn't have anyone to go with. I ended up calling one of my friends. And this was actually my friend Jim from the Denny's Dine and Dash video. I suggest you guys go watch that at some point after this if you haven't seen it, because it's absolutely hilarious. And I actually included a little bit of the audio of what actually happened in that so you guys can hear it. And it was just hilarious. Jim was freaking out. He thought he was going to get caught by the cops, which eventually he did. So go check that video out if you haven't already. But anyways, I text Jim and I'm like, "Listen, I have a crazy proposal. I want to do this, but I want to be safe and I want to go about this in the best possible way," which they're really, thinking back on it, was no good possible way to go about this. Everything about this situation was just crazy. And my plan was I was going to drive there on Saturday. I'm going to leave from California on Saturday in the morning with Jim. And I was going to drive to Vegas, get there, go to the festival. Jim was going to wait outside the festival just, in case anything was going wrong. I would have someone to lean back on. And I actually knew someone in Vegas at the time. This was one of my high school buddies that I went to high school with in California. He had moved out to Vegas for college and he was living out there. So it turns out he was actually working at EDC this weekend. So I wasn't going to be able to party with him, but at least I had someone inside the festival grounds that I knew. And then also Jim was outside waiting. And so my friend that lives in Vegas had told me, listen, if Jim wants to go in, I'm pretty sure I could get him in. So I told Jim and I said, listen, you could probably get in with us. I really want someone to be there in case things go wrong. And Jim, like the good friend he is, he said, no problem, I'll come with you. He wanted to make sure that everything was good. And keep in mind, I've known Jim since as long as I can remember. I've known him for a very long time. To this day, he's one of my closest friends and he's done a lot of things for me. So I really appreciate him doing this. So Friday comes around and it's the day before the festival. It's at night. I text Jim. I was like, hey, we good to go for tomorrow? He's like, yeah, bro, all good. So I was basically going to go pick him up at 7 in the morning and we were going to drive to Vegas. And I woke up a little bit late. I woke up at 8. I ended up picking Jim up around 9 and then we booked it to Vegas. And Vegas is around a 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive. Jim and I made it there in 2 hours and 45 minutes. I was absolutely hauling ass and I didn't get caught by anyone, so that was good. And we continued our way to Vegas. We got there. I met up with my friend that was going to be working at the festival that day, and we basically were just talking a bit, got some food, and then we ended up going to the festival later at night. Jim and I drove to the Speedway, and keep in mind, the drive to the Speedway is probably the worst drive I've ever had to experience. There's so many cars, it's only 3 lanes. Everyone's honking. It's literally a scene from a movie. Like you could easily get stuck there for 2 to 3 hours just waiting in line because there's hundreds of thousands of people going to this festival and all of them pretty much are taking cars unless you're bougie and you take a helicopter there, which I didn't have the facility to be taking a helicopter into the Speedway. So we're on the road and it's 5 p.m. I'm thinking we're early, but there's a slew of cars that are waiting to get into the Speedway. It's backed up for probably 3 miles before you even get to the exit for the Speedway. And I'm thinking, bro, I'm not going to wait in this line. Even though we're early, I just hate waiting in the car. I got impatient. I put my hazards on. And don't do this, guys, but I put my hazards on and I went into the hazard lane and I just started driving down it, flying past everyone. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to be sitting here waiting. I was just crossing my fingers, hoping that there wasn't any cops that was going to see me. I wasn't going to get pulled over and I wasn't going to get a ticket. So that was the risk that I was playing. But as I'm driving, some big semi truck, for whatever reason, was in the very left lane, which, first of all, they should not be in the very left lane. Semi trucks should be in the middle or the right lane. The left lane is for the fast cars. I was in the hazard lane, so I wasn't in either of the 3 lanes. And this semi truck saw me in the rear view mirror, and he decided right before I was going to pass him, he was going to cut over into the hazard lane and move his big truck all over into my lane. I had to swerve out of the way. I end up in the gravel a little bit. Super, super sketchy. Jim and I look at each other like, what the hell? And we're looking back in our rearview mirror and the truck is honking. And I'm like, yeah, bro, all right. Like, just relax. And so we finally get past all that. Luckily, there wasn't any cops that saw us on the way there. And we pull up into the Speedway. We get there. I meet up with my friend that I went to high school with that was working there. And he basically tells Jim, he's like, listen, Jim, I can get you in. Like, it should be no problem. Do you want to try? And Jim really errs on the side of caution. He doesn't really want to do anything that could possibly get him in trouble. So he's like, no, I want to chill here. And I'm like, bro, like we drove all the way. We can get you in. Like, why not come in with us? I really wanted to enjoy the show with him because that would have been super dope to experience it with Jim. And unfortunately, he didn't want to take the risk. He didn't want to get in trouble, which I respect him for. So at the time, I was driving a little Honda Civic, a little hatchback Honda Civic. And keep in mind, Jim is a big guy. He's like 6'2", super built. He doesn't fit in one of these tiny little cars. I felt so bad for him because he didn't really have anything to do. He couldn't go drive anywhere. And the DJ that I wanted to see didn't get on stage until around 2:30 in the morning. So at this point, I leave Jim and I'm walking into the festival grounds. I don't know if you guys have ever seen EDC, but it's one of the most spectacular sights. They just lit up this entire speedway, which I think it's around 7 or 8 different stages. And they're all super different, super cool. They all play different music. It's based around electronic music, so it's just subgenres of EDM. And that was what I was there for. So I was exploring the different stages. I got a couple drinks. I had my pen on me, which I was kind of scared about bringing in, but it was super simple. I just put it in my waistband and no one said a word. So I had my pen on me. I was taking some rips of that, just exploring the stages. And these stages, guys, were massive. These were meant to hold hundreds of thousands of people. So you can just imagine how massive these LED screens were. And So I'm just walking around, hitting my pen, just chilling. And I was thinking, I need to make some sort of friends here. So I was walking around the stages and I was looking for someone who had a similar flag to the DJ that I liked. That way, I could have some common ground. And I saw this group of people. They had this big flag in the crowd. They were waving it around. And I had gotten over to them. I was hanging out a little bit, just dancing, partying. I introduced myself to them and they were a really cool group of guys. We just hung out. They said they were going to go see Garrick's later. I said, wonderful. Is it cool if I hang out with you guys? They were super outgoing and funny and they just wanted to have a good time. And those are the exact type of people that you want to be around at shows like these. So that was perfect. I found them pretty early on and I was just hanging out with them. So a few hours go by and it's about time for Martin to get on stage. And at this point, my service on my phone was pretty much gone. I think if you're at a festival, if you're at anywhere where there's a massive amount of people there, your service is pretty bad usually. So I wasn't paying attention to this. I didn't really have service. I was just kind of in the moment, going from stage to stage, hanging out with the people that I met. And it comes time for Martin to play. So we walk over to the other stage. We had to walk across the entire speedway and we finally get to the stage. It was called Circuit Grounds. It was the heavy production stage. All the lasers, all the lights, all the fireworks. There was a huge fireworks show plan and it got really windy all of a sudden. We start thinking, oh shoot, are they not going to shoot off the fireworks? Because EDC is very notoriously well known for their fireworks. They have a huge fireworks show. I think it's around 2 in the morning that it usually happens for each of the nights of the festival. And they just light off a bunch of different fireworks and whatnot. But it was really windy, so I wasn't sure if they were going to do it. But anyways, Martin gets on stage. He has an absolute amazing set. I had the time of my life. I was just vibing with the people that we were with. And it was one of the most insane shows that I've been to. Unfortunately, there wasn't any fire. There wasn't any fireworks. There wasn't any smoke that was going off. All of it was canceled because of the high winds. So it was pretty frustrating for me. This was the first time that I went to this festival and I'm not going to see a single firework go off. It was pretty disappointing at that point, but the fact that I was there and I got to see the set and I met some amazing people and I was just having a great time. After the show ends, it was around 3:30 in the morning at this point, and my phone service starts lighting back up because a lot of people had left the festival at this point, and I'm on my way out as well. I just wanted to see Martin Garrix, and then I was going to go back to gym and we were going to drive back home. And I start getting a bunch of texts from my dad and a bunch of texts from Jim. And I'm like, oh shoot. And I completely forgot I was supposed to text my dad before this. Hey, I'm studying for finals really late at so-and-so's house. We have the same class together. We're going over materials and making sure we're ready. I'm going to just crash here. And I was going to take the hit on the chin for just sleeping there because my dad hated sleepovers. He hated when I wasn't sleeping at the house. And at that point, I would have just taken the hit on the chin for staying over at a friend's house, not being caught at a festival. But still, this was something that I thought was impossible for him to connect the dots with. However, remember when I told him that I wanted to go to this festival and he said no a few weeks ago. And so for whatever reason, I didn't execute this plan right. And I was supposed to text him around 11, but I never did. I get a bunch of texts from my dad saying, where are you? Why aren't you answering? How come you're not home? Answer me. And then another text later, it goes, I know you're in Vegas. And I was thinking, how does he know I'm in Vegas? So I called Jim. Jim answers basically crying, saying, your dad found out. Jim felt horrible because Jim also knows my dad really well. I mean, I've known Jim since I was very little, so our families know each other. Called Jim and told him he knows that I was there. He remembers that I had asked him about it. And also he verified that I was there because at the time I had this Instagram account that would post when I go to shows and I would just basically post show highlights, but it didn't have my name or my face anywhere. I didn't even think he knew this account existed. And I had posted on it and my shoe was in the post for one of my earlier posts when I had just got to the gate for the entrance. And my shoe was very distinct and my dad knew it was me. And that's how he found out that I was there. So he texts Jim, texts me. Jim's in shambles. He's basically saying, your dad found out. He's super scared. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this. Like, I'm so screwed right now. My dad's going to freaking kill me. This is the first time that I ever did anything crazy like this and I got caught. I felt so stupid for not messaging him beforehand and making sure my back was covered. I was just so caught up in the moment of being at the festival that I completely forgot about the plan and executing it. So everything would have basically gone to plan had I just texted my dad, hey, I was sleeping over at so-and-so's house. But that never happened. He connected the dots. He saw the Instagram post that I made on my other account. Somehow, to this day, I still don't know how he found the account. But he found it. He saw it. Called Jim, let Jim know, and it was just going to be a disaster. So I'm basically super depressed at this point. The show is already over. I'm having post-show depression, and my dad found out. So I'm absolutely double screwed here. So I get to the car. Jim basically had the worst experience because at this point it's 3 in the morning. I left Jim around 6:30 p.m. to go line up at the gate. So Jim had been by himself for a while, and what he told me he did was he was so tired and so uncomfortable he couldn't sleep in my car because it was too small. He ended up going to this random gas station, locked himself in the bathroom, and then slept on the cold floor in the bathroom. When he was telling me the story, I couldn't believe my ears. And then he told me that was one of the best sleeps he's ever had, was the 2 hours in the bathroom at this random gas station outside of a Vegas speedway. And I was just thinking, Jim, that's insane. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I'm so sorry you're caught up in the middle of this. I didn't want to give you a bad image with my dad. Jim was only there to help me and to make sure everything was okay, and now he's caught up in the middle of it. So I felt terrible. He had a horrible experience. I felt like a really bad friend. And at this point, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what my dad was going to do. I remember when he caught me for smoking for the first time and drinking. That video is also the first one on my channel. But when he caught me for that, I remember being so scared, and I got in so much trouble for that. I can't even imagine what he was going to do now. So when we get back to California, I dropped Jim off. I said, thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that this happened this way. And he goes inside to his house. And at this point, I was scared to go home. I really didn't even want to go home. So I remember sitting in my car for 6 hours. I end up going home at around 10 p.m. And of course, my dad's sitting there as I get home. And he just looked at me and he didn't even say a word that night. I remember going up to my room, going to sleep. And I woke up the next morning. And when I went to my car, there was this little tracker that was inside of it. He had already somehow got a tracker for my car, plugged it into it. And from that point on, he had been tracking everywhere I go. It would tell him the speed I was at. It would tell him the live location. It would tell him where I was previously. Would basically tell him everything that he needed to know about my whereabouts. And that was basically my punishment. Now I couldn't do anything behind his back. He always knew where I was. So this really affected a lot of things. And I always had to make excuses in the future if I wanted to go smoke or if I wanted to go do something. And if you guys are wondering about finals, I remember going to finals on Monday and I just failed everything. It did not make the situation better at all. I remember thinking, okay, if I at least do good on the finals, maybe he'll be okay with it. But I screwed the finals up, screwed my relationship up with him for a while. And it was just a big disaster. I had to rebuild a lot of trust after that point, and it was really hard. So I don't recommend anyone do anything like this behind your parents' back. This was a big lesson for me, and you shouldn't act on your impulses, even if you really want to do something in the moment, because it might not be better for you at the end. So that was basically the story about how I snuck off to Vegas behind my dad's back. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll be back with a new video soon.